So this Drake and Kendrick beef, 100% about rap and hip hop, right? But it's way bigger than rap and hip hop now. If you've been lost in the sauce of this whole beef between Drake and Kendrick, yes, Drake and Kendrick, two of the biggest names in hip hop, decided to clash heads in a way that we never could have imagined. So bad, in fact, that I hyperfixated on it, and everybody following me on my socials saw this shit. And also, if this is your first time seeing my face on your screen on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, man. I do videos like these rants fairly often, so if you enjoy hearing me rant about random topics, go ahead and subscribe. And to be honest, I'm not the biggest Drake fan, so seeing one of my favorite artists go at Drake was a very pleasant surprise. But I think a super interesting part about this whole beef was the rhetoric game used by Drake and Kendrick. And if you listen to hip hop, you know how big both of these fan bases are. I mean, even think about Drake. He is the #1 most streamed artist ever. He beat out Michael Jackson. That's just an objective truth. His fans are going to flock to whatever he is going to make. It can't fail at this point. He's just too big. And for Kendrick, yes, this is a way more niche audience, but at the same time, his albums have stood the test of time in a way that people are still comparing albums to them. Like, let's be real honest. Have we seen another To Pimp a Butterfly? Because of Kendrick's appeal to the whole black experience, struggle, and culture, people are going to just gravitate towards him because he resembles real black life. And Kendrick fans were all excited because they knew Kendrick was gonna diss him, but he was gonna diss him in the name of black culture and show why it's a problem for black culture rather than it just being a problem on its own. And I think the biggest one that was brought up, the whole Drake culture vulture allegations in Euphoria. And for this bar, this was interesting because people thought he was saying Drake can't be black because he was mixed, which I just want to go on the record and say that's not what that bar was entailing now. What he was saying though is that Drake is at that weird stage of biraciality where you're white passing. And because you're white passing, to people who are white, they're going to mistake you as being white. And with that little thing, you're allowed certain privileges and biases when it comes to opinions on you. And also for the people who are white passing, they almost have this get out of jail free pass to not deal with the plight of their other identity. Let's say they were really ashamed of being black in an example. They could just fully go over to white culture and be accepted. And that's where Kendrick was coming from because in a lot of ways, I think this as well, Drake bites off of culture without really respecting it. And if I'm wrong, y'all can challenge me in the comments, but I know it's gonna be Drake fans, so go ahead, just say it. But what really made me think this was honestly Nevermind, and oh, this shit had me so mad when it happened. Drake entered the realm of house music. I love house music, right? Very simple vibes, very chill vibes. If you notice every rant, I probably have some house type beat in there, but it's a very enjoyable listen. Drake did not understand that. And what I mean by this is that Drake didn't let Honestly Nevermind breathe without you being reminded that Drake made the album. And yes, you should be proud of an album that you made, especially being experimental, but brother, I don't need you singing over a house beat. Like the chorus is fine and for a hook, but like the entire time, bro? A good example for this is play any TRANSCENDED song that has a feature on it. That featured artist sounds good with the music as opposed to sounding on top of the music. But let me get on to the point, TRANSCENDED is not a part of this. And for a lot of moves in Drake's career, a lot of things that he does is mediocre, but it's celebrated. And I mean that like endearingly. Drake is at this point to where he doesn't have to be from the ground up trying to rap and impress everybody. He's done that in the past. It's shown by his streaming numbers. Like you're never gonna see an experimental album from Drake in 2024. Why would he risk it? Like what? But because of this, it lands him in a spot of mediocrity. It's still good, it's got hits in it, but I mean, call it for what it is. Let me stop with the Drake hate, let me stop. And this could be considered the reach, I'll completely understand. But Drake's #1 status in hip hop can almost mirror the United States dissatisfaction that we're seeing right now. Especially with the whole presidencies and being let down on promises. Look at student loan debt. I ain't got it. I know y'all probably ain't got it, and we all kind of voted for that. And then the lack of response that happened during the Black Lives Matter protests. And this is to say that the people wish that the United States would improve. We don't want the United States to be mediocre anymore. And this is where Kendrick's diss starts to really get crazy. And if we're gonna have a strictly lyricism conversation, I mean, Drake is not in that conversation with Kendrick. I mean, even Obama said this, bro. But I'm like, hey, at least they dropping music, right? But I tell you right now, When I heard this goddamn beat on Meet the Grams, I knew some shit was afoot. And what Kendrick did in Meet the Grams was decimate every single part of Drake in the most disrespectful diss track since the story of Adidon. And Meet the Grams was way more disrespectful than the story of Adidon. Oh my god, bro. But what you're gaining from this diss is the dissatisfaction that Kendrick has with Drake in every single way that he functions and moves. Specifically looking at the flaws of what he's doing and the systems that he uses to be famous. And with social media right now, that is literally what we are doing right now. A lot of people are voicing their opinions on how dissatisfied they are with the systems that run the United States. Especially with one situation. Free Palestine, by the way. I don't really know if I can say that, but I'm gonna leave it in here. And there are strong opinions on this dissatisfaction. And a lot where this was being voiced at was TikTok. TikTok is where you saw the most radical voices speaking out on their dissatisfaction, either for or against things that are happening, no matter where they were on the spectrum. And because of that, a lot of tension is brewing amongst the people in the United States right now. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but a lot of what Kendrick is talking about is a conscious class. And this is shown by the rhetoric of him dropping Meet the Grams to begin with. Because I can guarantee for a lot of Drake fans or just fans in general of music, a lot of the things that Kendrick was bringing up against Drake, they did not know about before. And on social media and TikTok, the biggest thing that's creating this class consciousness is exposing the US system for what it is, man. Like, people are tired of getting fucked over, especially when they worked their entire lives to make something. Imagine people graduating out of college thinking they finna get a $70,000 a year job and now they're scrambling for 30. They're going to be pissed and talk about it. And going back to it, Drake was not gonna take Meet the Grams on the chin. He had to defend himself and try to find some way to put back on for his fans. And this was shown by the Heart Part 6, which very rare Drake W, but out of all the Drake titles that I've seen, especially in disses, that's the best one. You did your shit, bro. I can't even hate. But in that one, he specifically talks about how he planted the information for Meet the Grams, such as the daughter and the photo itself. And basically laughing and ridiculing him, trying to take away the legitimacy of what Kendrick said about him. Because there were some serious allegations. I'm talking about some Diddy level allegations in there. And the best way to pivot yourself away from that is to throw out like, oh, haha, that's why you didn't get this right. I would also like to note that Drake said in the Heart Part 6 that he's too rich to get caught with the PDF file allegations, which Drake, that's not how that works, bro. In fact, it is much easier if you're rich to get away with those things. I mean, how could, what? But a way to defend yourself against these allegations is to find information that you can throw back in the face of the person spouting it. For example, talking about how he planted information and Kendrick bid on it and made a song about it. Despite everything that was said, the fact that Drake has this one thing to go on, he can now make it seem like he won and he's smarter than what's going on. And this kind of speaks to what Kendrick said, is that he is a master manipulator. Because a lot of people took that as a W. In my opinion, it's like, bro, I see what you're doing and you are right. That's an L for Kendrick, but you still gotta defend yourself, bro. And taking it back to the United States, for a lot of what's going on here, there's a lot of people delegitimizing the voices that want to speak out. And we can take this with the encampments that are currently happening for Palestine. Peaceful encampments are being destroyed by the police. To me, this sounds like a violation of one of the amendments we have, right? But because it's something that the US deems as a problem, they gotta get rid of it because that's bad PR at the end of the day. And the US don't want to look weak in front of these other countries, man. So they're gonna find any way to justify what they're doing, to sweep away the other things that are happening, to only focus on this one thing. And now looking at both situations, that's where my brain instantly went throughout all this. But it mainly happened after Meet the Grams. Like, Meet the Grams like snapped something in my head and I became just a nerd about all this, man. Because I've never seen this many people question Drake outwardly like this. Because Drake very much so is a bulletproof artist. I mean, no matter what bad happens, he's still gonna be in the top 5 and probably still won after all this time. But people are questioning his actual legitimacy in the area, and that's a major step in a lot of ways. What Kendrick was able to do was to put a blemish on that bulletproof legacy. And in the US, the people speaking out on these things happening that they don't agree with is putting a blemish on the US's actual dominance in the world. And it's just interesting that all of this happened at the same time. Like, we got generational rap beef going on and generational class consciousness happening at the same time. It's a wild world we live in, man. It's a wild world. If you enjoyed the rant, leave a like on this video, put your boy in the algorithm so everybody can see your boy, BasedDom. Yes, sir, man. Leave a comment. Be honest. Am I actually reaching with this? Because that's how I see this whole thing, right? And I actually have a lot more to say about this situation than I'm putting on. So if you do want to see that, leave a comment on this video telling me that you want to see it. And subscribe, man. I genuinely cannot tell you about the growth that is happening, bro. It is like, oh my gosh, dog. Y'all got my voice cracking with all this support, the love, just the engagement. Everything about this is just beautiful, and I have nothing to do but thank y'all for it, man. I appreciate all my subscribers, both old and new, because y'all make my dreams of being a content creator realer every day, and I love you. If you want to join my public Discord, it is right here. If you want to join my public Snapchat, it is right here, or it's in the description below. But yeah, man, it's been BasedDom, people. Deuces.